precursor to the annual flagship conference, which really brings in the best minds to deliberate, talk, and discuss about a variety of issues and topics. And one of which is responsible recruitment. Responsible recruitment, as we understand, lies really at the heart of business responsibility or responsible business conduct. And I would think that given the times that we are in and the way we are unlocking and how the businesses, India Inc. is really charting its way forward towards revival and recovery, this particular aspect, which is responsible recruitment, will become of great eminence and importance, and which is why it is important to have these discussions. And more, of course, in the course of our discussion with conversation with Mr. Makwan, we will try to unravel and unpack a few elements, essential elements and aspects of responsible recruitment, but a more nuanced and detailed discussion will happen at the annual flagship conference on the 29th of October. So I'll request all of you to mark your calendars already. And now, without any further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Makwan to join us on this LinkedIn Live session. Over to you, Mr. Makwan.
Thank you. Thank you, Nandini, and thank you, Shreya, for that introduction. I'm pleased to be with all the audience in this LinkedIn Live session. Thank you for Center for Responsible Business for inviting me and your partnership with IJM.
Absolutely, a pleasure to have you, Mr. Makwan. And perhaps, if you allow me, we can dive straight into the conversation. And here we would like the very first question to know a little bit more about you and, of course, the organization, the commendable work that IJM has been doing. And in particular, if you could highlight for us what have been the areas of work for this year, this unique and challenging year for all of us. So over to you, Mr. Makwan.
This is my 30th year in professional work. Prior to this work that I'm doing, I was working for a corporation, public corporation, out of Gujarat for nearly 10 years. Half of my career has been into professional career, and another half is in the development sector. For last 10 years, I'm working for this organization called IJM, International Justice Mission. We basically focus on developing communities that are protected and safe so that they can have sustainable and safe and peaceful lives. In order to achieve that, what we do in terms of actual work is we work with the justice systems, especially across the country, and in fact across the world, through what we call our community protection model. What that does is those who are unprotected, and as far as the number goes, anywhere between 2 billion to 4 billion people across the world are unprotected. That means they live in this world, but they do not have the protection of the law. Laws are there, but they do not have the protection of law. And therefore they are vulnerable. And therefore they are at the mercy of all the invisible and visible players in the world that can come and harm them. We particularly work with those people who are poor, vulnerable, weak, and exploited in various systems of the world. So we provide them support through rescue, rehabilitation, and prosecution. In particular, we work with victims of human trafficking and labor exploitation. The core of our model is to end impunity in the crimes, such as bonded labor, labor exploitation, trafficking, and make sure that the people are protected. But not only that, we make sure that the people where they work and where they live, they have an environment which is sustainable. Lately, for last few years, we have now started working with corporate supply chain, where we help corporate supply chain to ensure that people that they hire are protected from recruitment till the time they start working for them and as they work with them, and make sure that the corporate supply chain are also sustainable. That's kind of overall we work with. We work in about 14 states in country. And so far, we have directly helped nearly 21,000 people in terms of rescue and rehabilitation. And in 5 state governments, in particular, roughly about 25 districts, we have helped the government to strengthen their criminal justice system so that people are protected. And in those districts, we are creating sustainable environment so that people and businesses both thrive together. So that's in a small answer, I would say that's what we do.
Right. Thank you so much. That's a wide spectrum of stakeholders that the International Justice Mission works with, and in particular the impacted community and the impacted stakeholders. And that kind of leads me to my next question, Mr. Makwan, that given that you've worked with the corporates, the businesses, you've worked with the impacted communities, you're working with justice systems, with government agencies in pushing the agenda of responsible business and, you know, a sustainable ecosystem. What then would you think are, let's say, the key learnings or the key lessons for us in this year, you know, the challenge that it's thrown open for us, and where do you think are the opportunities that can be leveraged? So over to you there.
Extremely important question, Nandini. Thank you for asking that. I think everybody is asking that questions to themselves in the organizations, in companies, corporations, everywhere. And I connect with top multinational in the world to the lowest, you know, small businesses next to my house who runs a Kirana shop. I think everybody's asking that question, that what has just happened? I think when, you know, first time in March, when we saw millions of migrant laborers walking on the streets of India, suddenly we were hit with what just happened. I think the first big thing that has happened with India as in general and India Inc. is that people, those who were invisibly working in various companies across the country and various sectors, right? Some numbers are right there, like in construction sector, nearly 50 million migrant laborers work. And there are, you know, textile sectors and garment sectors and all kinds of sectors, millions of people work. Roughly, according to the numbers, nearly 100 million migrant laborers, they work in this sector. Now, I'm not saying all are affected, but majority of them are affected because of the COVID situation that we have find ourselves in. When they started walking in the streets and roads of India, suddenly the problem that was invisible has become visible. You know, it was only people like us who are in the sector, social development sector, knew it, but now it became visible, number one. Number two, I think we suddenly realized that those who are poor are hurt the most. I would say poor are the ones, they are not safe even in the lockdown. You know, people like us, we live in small or big apartments. Some of us live maybe in villas and, you know, middle class, upper middle class. And we somehow found our way to maneuver this. People who are poor, they did not know what to do with this. And many of them, they found themselves unsafe. And I work with that community throughout the country, and I can give you numbers that how much trouble and how many of them are really struggling with day-to-day life. And as we know, 90% of our economy is informal, and informal economy is hit extremely hard as far as the impact of COVID is concerned. And almost, you know, all of them are like struggling to find food, shelter, money to survive. Now, having said that, are we learning our lessons? I think we are learning our lessons very fast. As an industry and as a government, as civil society, we are agile. And I think it's a human nature that we are agile in this space, and we're trying to find solutions pretty quickly. I think one big challenge the COVID has put forward towards us is these 100 million people who are unprotected, and suddenly we know them. There is a challenge in front of us and opportunity, I would say, that how we are going to make sure that as we strike back, revive our economy, come back, how we're going to make sure that these 100 million people are protected. That's challenge and opportunity both. Two, I would say, you know, migration, mostly interstate migration across the country. And Kerala is a great model, right? They call themselves, they call our migrant laborers as guests, and they provide all kinds of support and benefits. I think all states have a challenge in front of them, that how source and destination, and I would say transit, will make sure that these migrant laborers will find themselves safe as they go for this work. Remember, these are the people who produce the shirts that we wear and the broadband that we use. You know, they are the ones who lay the cables on the ground. They are the ones who supply milk to us. They are the ones who go and, you know, cultivate rice for us. They are the ones who make sure that the farmer produce from the field to the mall that we go and buy and to our house. They are the ones. And I think it's important that all of us pay enough attention to their protection. So there are great problems become visible. There are lots of challenges, but I would say there are lots of opportunities as well.
Fantastic. That was very well put, Meghwan. Absolutely in agreement with you that while there is the challenge, but I think we, India Inc., the businesses are all sort of up for it. And there are already, you know, we see a lot of positive stories coming out from the business community, from government, everybody trying to sort of come up in a collaborative manner with potential solutions. Of course, the road ahead is long and a difficult one, but we shall, of course, overcome and surmount these challenges. This now brings me, I mean, you talked about, you know, the challenges, the opportunities, and I hear you also mentioned, you know, the whole recovery and revival of the economy. And there I would think a key aspect to this whole recovery and revival, and really looking at protection and sort of better and a more sustainable ecosystem, a safer ecosystem for the majority of the workforce. Responsible recruitment here, I would see as a game changer. So I would then like to ask you, how would you define responsible recruitment? And if you could unpack that term for us, and, you know, maybe if you could also highlight the key aspects or the essential aspects that define responsible recruitment.
Thank you, Nandi. Again, it's a great question. You know, after United Nations drafted Sustainable Development Goals for this season, and now, first time ever, businesses are made part of and responsible to contribute to the international development, and therefore national and the local development for us. So there is, internationally, there is an increased awareness about sustainable business. And by sustainable business, we have to separate. Sustainable business does not mean that my business survive for years and years to come. Sustainable business means the business has practices that are sustainable. So they take care of their human resources, they take care of their environment, and therefore the business will sustain itself for a longer time. There is a Harvard Business Review, and I think the New York University's Stern Center for Sustainable Business has come out with extensive research on this aspect. And 50%, they are saying 50% of consumer products goods growth came from sustainable markets or sustainable businesses in last 7 years. So that means consumer, the end user, is extremely concerned about, increasingly aware about where these products are coming from, how they are manufactured or made, and how they are supplied. So human resources and environment, are we actually taking care of it or not? Next decade, I would say, India Inc., and I think all companies across the world are going to be increasingly concerned about making sure these two aspects, environment and people. We specifically deal with people. And I think, as I said, like 110 million people, those who found themselves out on the roads and suddenly they lost everything, unprotected, unsafe, they were the ones who were making these products, right? So I think for us, it all starts with the recruitment. And most of these recruitments are informal, right? As we know, it's subcontracting. Our supply chain is extremely complicated. Somewhere in a small village in Odisha, somebody migrates to, let's say, somewhere in the suburban Mumbai. and perhaps manufacturing a shirt for a great company. That supply chain is extremely complex, but there is a starting point. And that start point, I think that's where we want to make sure that we work. So I call it recruitment corridor. We call it recruitment corridor, which is source, transit, and destination. So there is a source, as I said, in Odisha village, and there is a destination in suburban Mumbai, and there is a transit. We want to make sure this entire corridor is protected. It starts with recruitment at the source. So we want to make sure that at the source, we remove bad actors, those who are, and sometimes businesses at the destination level, they are just not even aware of it, that's what's going on. So we want to make sure that at the source level, we fix every problem that is around that recruitment practices. So remove bad actors, particularly those who are indulged in unsafe migration, forceful migration, trafficking, and labor exploitation. One. Two, we want to make sure that sometimes, debt bondage is a big issue. People take advances and then they are forced to work. As far as the number goes, there's one agency, and I think some time ago, government minister has said that nearly 20 million people, often find themselves in this bondage. And we want to make sure that at the source, we fix this issue and make sure that people are not troubled by that. Then, are we going to affect the business negatively? No. Second piece in the responsible recruitment is we want to make sure that there is a level playing field for everybody. So we regulate recruiters at the source, but then there is a consistent enforcement, source, transit, and destination. And as we close these exploitative practices and actors, we actually make business more sustainable. Finally, we want to make sure that as we do this, we want to prove with data for a particular business. If you're working for you, then we want to make sure that this kind of responsible recruitment not only increases your profit, but makes your business sustainable in a short term and also in a long term. These things, I think it's a massive game changer for next 10 years. I think you're muted, Nandan. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. My apologies. I was just saying thank you so much for articulating your response so very well, and really taking us through the approach that is being followed right from the start point to the point of departure to right till the end, and then engaging with all the stakeholders, taking into consideration the interest of all stakeholders and ensuring that it's a win-win for everybody. So, and at CRB, that's also sort of our endeavor and our mission to sort of integrate and internalize business sustainability, and to see this as a business case, as the way to sort of conduct oneself and conduct one's business. And I'm happy to see that that approach is very holistic, it's inclusive, it's participatory. But here again, I'd like to maybe come back to a point that you brought in earlier in the conversation, and of course alluded to it in your response, which is really about the informal sector. And that you mentioned this, that these informal supply chains, it's different. One, they're labyrinthine. There's no start and there's no end. There is a lot of opacity around it. So I'm just wondering, in that sense, what do you think would be a most effective approach, or how would you? Because I would think that this is a particular case that is peculiar, perhaps to India. And then, do we have customized kind of solutions or approaches to dealing with this kind of a situation?
Thank you. I'm going to attempt to answer this, but you're right. Probably the formal sector, those who are governed well, they take care of all of these issues. But informal sector generally try to avoid this. The one element, though, which is common for formal and informal, is the rule of law, right? So I used to head a company, and for me, compliance is kind of if I have a business goal, that's my primary goal. Compliance, okay, few individuals and attorneys will take care of it, okay? And because it is a public company, we can manage that. The informal sectors, they don't invest in this, right? And of course, their business model is not that big so that they can even afford it. What we want to bring on the table is exactly that, that how do we help informal sector to have this cover where rule of law very easily is complied by them. And it's not cumbersome, it's not punitive, it's regulatory, right? That, okay, we are going to make sure that we help you with some of this compliance thing. So that, let's say if you have 100 workers in your brick kiln, brick factory, you're making bricks, right? And you're all bothered about is make these bricks, supply it, and that's about it. In the process, there's a lot of things are happening. We want to come in there and make sure that the local government and these kind of informal businesses are connected. Again, not to harm, but to help. As you said, it's win-win for both. Now imagine if after 5-10 years, CRB, people like IJM, we can actually, with data, prove to ourselves and to the world that, look, this 100 million people are protected, and our contribution in our GDP, by the way, currently it is anywhere between 1.5 to 7%, the migrant laborers' contribution. Imagine if we make sure that that 7% goes to 15%. That's like 100% growth, because this informal economy actually helped you. How? Through protecting the interest of business and interest of people, right? So I think the idea to bring in regulatory mechanism positively will really enforce good. Now, the sound of it looks like, oh, even it is possible. My experience says it's extremely possible and extremely easy to do it. What we need is willingness to actually attempt it. Very soon, as you said, we will have a business case to prove that investing in such a practice actually makes your business profitable and sustainable.
Thank you so much, Makwan. Absolutely, yet again in agreement with what you're saying, that you need to have a policy framework, some enabling regulations, but of course this is a collaborative effort, and if one were to see that it is a win-win for all and that there are gains for everybody and each and every stakeholder, and that you could bump up the GDP rates for your country, then for sure, I think this perhaps would not look so far-fetched, and would perhaps be a reality very soon, sooner than later, I would hope so. I'm afraid we've run out of time. I know this topic in itself is all-encompassing. It has various facets to it and various nuances to it, but unfortunately, we would need to end our session for the day for now. But once again, I would like to remind our viewers that we will have a session, a more nuanced and detailed session on the 29th, and please join us for more perspectives and more insights on responsible recruitment. Over to you, Shreya. Thank you so much, Mr. Makwan.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Makwan. Thank you, Nandini. It was definitely an insightful session. Like Nandini mentioned, please join us on the 29th of October, 11:45 a.m. for taking this discussion forward. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.